Coming up on Mountain News this morning, names have been released in a bizarre incident where 2 geese were ran over and killed. And police are left with questions after an officer ran over a pedestrian who was in the middle of the road.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. I'm Madison Carmouche. We are inching up to 6:30 this morning. Today is September 4th, 2024. And you know, Tim, we've kind of been talking about the cool down that's coming through as we kind of make that transition out of summer. And I hate to say it, but I think I saw some leaves changing colors already when I was at Cumberland Falls State Resort Park yesterday. So let's send it over to Tim Drawbridge for a look at your forecast.
You know, it's one of those things where leaves start changing a little early. You're like, oh, fall's coming in, fall's coming in. Sometimes it's because of stress on the tree, lack of rainfall, and other things that we don't have enough time to go into. But that's one of the reasons as to why leaves can change early this time of the year and kind of make you hit the panic button and go, no, we don't want to fall that quick. 57, you can see the cloud cover issues outside our door. 10's on the board regarding visibility. We did have a few reports of some fog about 2 to 3 hours ago, closer to the Tennessee state line. Temperature-wise, warmer than this time yesterday morning. Again, we're at 57 here in Hazard after being in the lower 50s yesterday morning at 6 a.m., and that's reflected on the 24-hour temperature change as well. We're all about 5 to 10 degrees warmer. We've got some breaks in the clouds that will allow for some sun to shine as we head through your Wednesday. Calling it partly sunny and a high this afternoon near 80. We'll talk about that cool down Madison alluded to with your first alert 7-day forecasts coming up in a few moments. Madison?
All right, Tim, thank you. 2 men are cited after reportedly driving through a gaggle of geese on purpose. WYMT's RJ Johnson tells us more about what happened at this hangout space.
It's kind of an odd situation, odd case.
On August 19th, police were called to the parking lot of Village Center Mall in Harlan for concerns of injured geese after 2 men reportedly drove through a gaggle.
It's in a pretty populated area, so there was quite a few people seen it happen. So they started calling and reporting it because they was concerned about the incident happening and leaving the two geese there that was injured.
Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife District 10 Public Information Officer Kyle Clark says they cited 18-year-olds Bryson Brock and Dalton Noe for 2 counts of illegally taking a migrated bird and 2 counts of second-degree animal cruelty.
I think that at the time they thought it was fun, but then now I think they're realizing that it was a pretty cruel act and that it wasn't as fun or funny as they thought it was originally.
While officials were able to save one of the geese, the other was taken to a rehabilitation center in Hazard where it was later euthanized.
It did appear that it was intentional, like they seen the flock and they drove right through the middle of it, 2 different trucks. And then once we started talking to both subjects, they was pretty cooperative with the investigation.
Elaine McAulay is a stylist at Lux Beauty Bar, one of several businesses within the area. She says people hanging out in the parking lot isn't anything new.
I get off work later here and I do see kids hanging out. Usually nothing really bad is going on, but they're just hanging out, talking. You know, I don't really ever see anything bad happen.
In Harlan, Arthur Johnson, WYMT Mountain News.
McAulay says hearing about something like this happening in the parking lot was concerning. A Knox County man will appear in court this morning after police say he shot a man in front of a child. Deputies say Joseph Collett broke into a home on Wagers Road in Laurel County Saturday. They say he shot and killed a dog and fired multiple shots, injuring a man and narrowly missing a 4-year-old. Deputies say the man was grazed by a bullet. A release says Collett knew the victim. Collett's charges include attempted murder, burglary, and animal cruelty.
His mindset, from what we could tell, he just went in there enraged over something and just began firing the weapon. I mean, a scary situation. I mean, we could have had 3 people killed in that residence.
What led up to the incident is still under investigation. A man has been sentenced to 40 years in prison for the death of a woman in Huntington, West Virginia. Peter Van Masdam III was arrested for the death of Mary Deal. Deal's body was found near railroad tracks. The criminal complaint stated Van Masdam shot Deal with a shotgun in a home, set fire to her body, and placed her in a lightly vegetated area near the railroad tracks. 10 people have been arrested after they conspired to distribute fentanyl and methamphetamine in Southwest Virginia. Matthew Ryan Addington, Ashley Lyndon Beverly Jr., Brandon Jean Boggs, Eric Lee Coffey, James Eugene Gamble, Keith Edward Payne Jr., Brittany Shantae Rose, Cody Allen Rose, Thomas Ray Houston, and Andorra Lee Smith were arrested on federal charges. Those involved are accused of traveling to North Carolina and Kentucky to obtain the drugs. Police and firefighters in Wayne County, West Virginia worked together to take down a man they say was a major drug dealer in the Fort Gay area. Police arrested Chad Salmons. Sheriff Rick Thompson says officers were executing a search warrant as a part of a drug investigation when they came across a safe. That is when the Fort Gay Fire Department showed up to open it, finding pounds of meth inside and other drugs. They also found guns and nearly $10,000 in cash. Kentucky law enforcement says a man who led officers on a chase in a semi was driving under the influence of drugs. It started in Nelson County when Nelson County deputies chased a stolen car on Bluegrass Parkway. KSP says the man then got out of the car and started running. As they were setting up a perimeter, the man got in a semi and drove away. After a second chase, the semi eventually left the road and overturned in a wooded area near Blue Lick Road in Bullitt County. Police arrested him and brought him to the hospital for treatment for heroin. His name will be released once he's out of the hospital. Former NBA star Rajon Rondo was in a Southern Indiana courtroom Tuesday, where he pleaded guilty to a firearm charge. Rondo was arrested in January in Jackson County, Indiana, after a traffic stop on I-65. He was charged with possessing a firearm while prohibited, possession of marijuana, and possession of drug paraphernalia. Tuesday, he pleaded guilty to one count of unlawful carry of a handgun. The state dropped the drug charges. Rondo's expected to get a 180-day sentence, but under the deal, he will just get probation. Rondo played for the Kentucky Wildcats before going on to have a successful NBA career. In Mingo County, West Virginia, a person was hit in the middle of the road by a police cruiser. The incident happened last week a few miles from the Logan County line. A West Virginia state trooper who responded to the call says the driver was a Williamson police officer traveling north with a prisoner on 119. Jamie Harris says the only thing they do not know is why the pedestrian was in the middle of the road.
At the point that he was in the construction zone, it would undoubtedly several cars would have had to have passed through there by that point.
The injured pedestrian was originally taken to Logan Regional Hospital before he was transferred to CAMC General Hospital in Charleston. State police have not provided an update about the condition of the pedestrian or any potential charges. Somerset Mayor Alan Keck is doubling down on efforts to regulate abuse and fraud in the recovery system. In a letter to the Kentucky Cabinet for Health and Family Services Secretary, Keck called on the cabinet to reinstate prior authorization for recovery services billing Medicaid. According to a news release sent out by Keck's office, it says the checks and balances measure was suspended during the pandemic due to a public health emergency but never returned. Keck said, quote, "Our communities are seeing an influx of sober living facilities that are taking advantage of Kentucky's Medicaid system and the lax requirements that linger from the COVID-19 pandemic. Keck also told WYMT that he wants people to be able to get the help that they need, but doing so without enabling abuse. A gas leak caused a portion of one city in Woodford County to be evacuated. Officials with the Versailles Fire Department say the gas main broke from from Elm Street to Yellow Jacket Drive in Versailles. This impacted businesses as well as those living in the area, but officials with the fire department say those folks have been allowed to return to their businesses and homes. You might remember that a gas leak also caused issues for some people in Anderson County last week.
Approaching 6:39 on this Wednesday morning. A lot of clouds we're waking up to across eastern and southern Kentucky, but they extend westbound across the entire Commonwealth. You do notice there are some thin spots in the overcast back through here. And guess what? Those are the breaks that are going to allow us to see some sunshine as we head through your Wednesday. Cloudy outside right now and 57, warming up a few degrees as we make our way through the next hour plus. We end up cracking the 70-degree mark as we head into the lunch hour, topping out at 80 this afternoon. More about your ARH First Alert 7-day forecast as we time out some showers. You may not like the timing. It's all coming up in a few minutes. Madison?
All right, Tim, thank you. Construction continues on a new Breathitt County vocational school and bus garage. Administrators anticipate the building will be completed in about 1 year. Facilities Director William Noble says the vocational school can lead to skills that help the community.
We have so many opportunities for students here at the vocational school, and we always need plumbers, electricians. Our community obviously needs mechanics and things of that nature, so it's very vital for our community to have those opportunities for students to learn those trades.
Administrators say the school cannot be used only by students in Breathitt County schools, but also students at Jackson City and Riverside. A world record has been set at a popular bowling alley in Louisville. Stephen and Trace Wiseman, Eric Howard, and Kyle Reed set the Guinness World Record for the most strikes in 24 hours. They bowled at Kingpin Lanes. Money raised goes to the Friends for Life Cancer Support Network. Stephen and Trace are father and son. They say feats like this take more practice than you think.
We bowled 3 to 4 days a week every week for probably 10 years. Yeah. And a lot of practice. It's not easy.
You learn the game, you learn the lanes, you learn the balls.
The team needed at least 1,200 strikes to get into the Guinness World Record books. That is the equivalent of at least 50 strikes per hour, or 1 strike every 1 minute and 12 seconds. Thank you for joining us. The time is now 6:41. Still to come on Mountain News this morning. The latest on the war in Gaza and why new U.S. charges against Hamas are seen as largely symbolic.
Stop